Hi, my name's Eric, and this is the Fall River Herald News reading for Monday, June 2nd of 2025. We'll start with the weather, as we always do when we're reading the Herald News. And across the South Coast today, partial sunshine expected, high of 74, a low of 46 in the overnight. Might be a little chilly after a nice warm day. Tomorrow, Tuesday, mostly sunny and warmer, high of 82, low of 51. It's a very warm and quite nice week ahead of us. High clouds on Wednesday, high of 84, low of 55. Clouds and sun on Thursday. It'll be even warmer. You might hit 90 on the South Coast on Thursday, a low of 60. Partly sunny and humid, high of 85 and a low of 60 on Friday. So what looks to be a beautiful week ahead for the South Coast in terms of sunshine and no rain expected, warm weather. So enjoy that. Get outside, feel that sunshine on your face if you can. The headline above the fold, if there was such a thing in a digital newspaper, Empty Convent Could Be Reimagined Apartments, by Emily Sherney of the Herald News in Fall River. When the Holy Union of the Sacred Hearts Convent and Carriage House on Rock Street was placed on the market, Corporation Counsel Alan Rumsey and his wife Maria took the chance to protect their own investment on the same block, said attorney Peter A. Solino at a Zoning Board of Appeals meeting May 15th. They took the chance and purchased it, Solino said. The Rumseys purchased the convent, carriage house, and rear building at 550 and 570 Rock Street, divided into parcels for $515,000 and $447,500 on December 23rd of 2024, according to Registry of Deeds records. With their neighbors in mind, they wanted to do something thoughtful for the neighborhood, Solino said. At the same time, he prefaced that they proposed to build 15 two-bedroom rentals within the historic buildings, and that this plan would be met with strong opposition. What is the Holy Union Sisters Convent building? The property served as the original home of the Holy Union Sisters and was established in 1885. The convent, carriage house, and back building at 550 and 570 Rock Street is on lots 16 and 17 in an R4 two-family zoned district. Solino said the Rumseys, who live immediately south of the property at 492 Rock Street, purchased the former convent knowing that the use had lapsed. He said the building's historic significance hasn't carried forward to the present day, with the exception of one nun, whose belongings are stored in a smaller building on the property. In the hour-long hearing that followed, abutters and residents who live in Fall River's only Chapter 40C protected historic district challenged the proposal, citing fears of a lack of historic preservation and parking. Rockview LLC requested a variance to convert the existing convent and carriage house into 15 apartments, down from 20 units that architects believed could fit. A special permit was requested to adjust necessary requirements pertaining to the number of parking spaces and to increase the conforming lot coverage for each lot. Other waivers asked to modify the pre-existing lot coverage, but neither the footprint of the building nor the exterior architecture would be changed. Solino debunked rumors of removing time period details. That's not being changed, he said. After discussion with the board, Rumsey agreed to drop the number of units to 12, with 6 in the main house and the other 6 distributed between the other 2 buildings on the property. Ultimately, Rumsey indicated his wishes to table the matter until the next zoning board meeting on June 26th. Abutters concerned with historical preservation and parking. Those opposed to the Rumsey's plan expressed overwhelming concerns about construction being done to the structure's exterior and facade where most of the building's historic character is visible. Other concerns involved parking and street congestion. But the petition, countered Solino, seeks no parking waivers, according to the site plans. 2 off-street parking spots per unit will be provided in a lot accessed via Prospect Street to the rear of the structures on the property's west side. Solino and Rumsey said on any given night there's plentiful street parking along Rock Street. Parking could be modified in the event that turn radiuses and travel aisles may need to be adjusted during the site plan review, Solino said. Abutter Carl Amaral, who lives on Gatehouse Drive, cited privacy, personal, and financial challenges related to the petition. Amaral claimed the neighborhood had seen one bad hit after another in terms of car accidents and traffic congestion, especially during dismissal time for nearby Westall Elementary School. Amaral claimed abutters were never informed of the property's purchase and that Rumsey asked for $5,000 from abutters to retain our property, our backyard, he said, even mentioning a possible conflict of interest when it came to the Rumseys collecting rent as profit. Solino said that thousands of dollars in compensation was not anything to a level of extortion, but there was an encroachment that had been discovered after the sale. Solino compared the Rock Street property to the old Highland Manor at the corner of Highland Ave and Stanley Street, which likewise drew widespread opposition to development. Like the Highland Manor, there is a hardship in terms of the building's significance, Solino argued. We have a lot of properties in Fall River that are going to face this type of quandary. What do you do with it? Solino said. According to Jeffrey Tolman, an engineer who Solino had asked to review the plans before the meeting, the Rumseys have the right to demolish the convent and carriage house after the historic preservation period expires. Hypothetically, they could subdivide the property into 4 lots and build 2-family homes that abide by frontage requirements for Prospect and Rock Streets. Alexander Silva, president of the Preservation Society of Fall River, submitted a letter on his own behalf asking the board to reject the petition and refer it to the Historical Commission, citing density concerns and the structure's place in a protected historic district. Daniel Aguiar, the city's director of planning and engineering, corrected doubtful remarks, saying the building, especially if it was structurally unsound, could be demolished, though there would be an extensive process to follow in line with 40C stipulations. Do we really need more units in that area? Asked Holly Morse, who lives nearby on Rock Street. She claimed that developers were reacting, quote-unquote, to the newly operating MBTA South Coast Rail, which she said was contributing to a development boom in the surrounding districts close to Fall River Depot. It could turn bad, she added. Others submitted that older structures should be reimagined with new purposes so that these homes survive. But 15 units with 2 lots for parking spaces seemed to be a drastic uptick compared to neighboring homes. The other story on the front page of today's Herald News, Somerset drops charges against Brayton Point, by Emily Sherney of the Herald News in Somerset. After more than a year of grueling litigation, the criminal lawsuit between the Somerset Board of Selectmen and St. Louis-based Brayton Point LLC has come to an end, somewhat. The legal case in which Somerset attempted to recoup $3.5 million in outstanding fines was officially closed after the town dropped 2 misdemeanor charges of zoning bylaw violation and charges of municipal bylaw violation or ordinance violation in a nolle prosequi motion on April 28th in Fall River District Court. Since Brayton Point LLC first stepped into court for arraignment on January 4th of 2024, there's been a string of rescheduled pretrial hearings, with only a number of them occurring before Judge Paul Pino. Patrick J. McBurney, an attorney representing the defendant, confirmed in an interview that the case has been closed with charges dropped on the prosecution's behalf. Attorney Arthur Frank, who represented Somerset in the legal proceedings, disclosed that the Somerset Board of Selectmen has decided to pursue collecting fines from Brayton Point LLC another way. Frank said the governing board has made the executive decision via a Rule 16 dismissal to recoup fines without the approval of the court or the defendant by way of municipal administrative process. According to a memorandum shared by Frank with the Herald News, the town may utilize any and all statutory methods to collect the overdue, unpaid fines. In doing so, Somerset has imposed a municipal charge lien on 90 acres of real estate in town that Brayton Point LLC owns. According to Mass General Laws, Part 1, Title 7, Chapter 40, Section 58, municipalities like Somerset have the right to administratively collect a local charge or fee outside of a forum like the Fall River District Court, redirecting the matter to presumably Land Court and the town's tax assessor's office. A Registry of Deeds search indicates that as of April 1st of 2025, Somerset has placed 14 liens totaling $3,452,940 on the land at 1 Brayton Point Road. The fines are the combination of zoning violation claims ranging from $55,110 to $425,910 accrued between November 11th of 2020 and December 15th of 2021. Frank said this development will not prevent further discussions with Brayton Point LLC, and the next step would be to engage in talks to resolve the matter, he said, and that though he may be involved in those discussions, they'll be held outside of the purview of district court. According to court documents filed by Frank and retired Judge Joseph Macy, hired by Somerset to investigate the case, in 2020 the town of Somerset started receiving complaints from residents that uncovered trucks delivering scrap metal were causing excessive dust in violation of the town's zoning bylaw. Previously, the Somerset Zoning Board had originally granted Brayton Point LLC a permit to allow operation at the site through a planned development permit. But the zoning board later reversed this decision after pushback from residents and settled on a cease and desist order to stop the operations, or the company would be held to fines of $300 a day for each truck that entered Brayton Point. In March 2022, the decision was upheld by a land court judge who ordered the company to cease the operation of its scrap metal operation within 14 days from the date of judgment. Brayton Point LLC's owners sought to appeal the order to stop tenants in the scrap metal and salt wholesale and storage business from trucking materials in and out of the property. At the time, the company offered to pay $68,100, the amount it believes was owed. It was reported on January 9, 2024, that Somerset successfully, quote-unquote, brought criminal charges against the owners of St. Louis, Missouri-based Brayton Point, operators of the Brayton Point Commerce Center. The town is seeking to collect $3.5 million in fines levied against the company, which Brayton Point refused to pay. Following a pretrial conference and arraignment March 4th of 2024, the defense's assessment claimed fines should add up to $11,561.33. In an amended complaint provided to the Herald News, Somerset submitted evidence in the form of a revised count of separate violations incurred when Brayton Point LLC, quote, did operate its business in violation of a cease and desist order, and that is subject to the penalty provisions of town bylaw. According to the town, a new total of 11,195 vehicular trips in and out of Brayton Point went on for 254 days between November 20th of 2020 and December 15th of 2021, in violation of a cease and desist order that was dated November 24th of 2020. There is 1 week notated as missing from the report that counts no trips between November 11th and November 17th of 2021. In his motion to dismiss the criminal charges for misdemeanor zoning violations and municipal bylaw violations that occurred in 2020 and during the court proceedings, McBurney, the attorney representing Brayton Point, argued that the town alleged over 11,561 violations in 482 days, at $300 per separate trip. McBurney argued that according to state law, the town may only issue a single violation of the order to cease and desist operations per day. The amended complaint, filed on February 28th of 2025, reduced the number of violations by about 400 trips. Judge Pino asked the town and Brayton Point to work it out. At a hearing on March 19th of 2024, where both sides took the stand, Pino refused to dismiss the charges, advising both the attorneys for each party to work it out. A letter written to McBurney, dated June 15th of 2023, was emailed to the Herald News. In it, Brayton LLC's willingness to resolve the issue was indicated, but claimed it was Somerset that refused to engage in practical and reasoned attempts to bring about a solution. The town has put itself in a perilous situation, one that could result in the town and Brayton Point LLC losing a multinational company willing to invest over $200 million, mentioning both Prysmian Group of Italy and the consequential years-long litigation related to the town's violation of Brayton Point's equal protection right and First Amendment right, wrote McBurney. No official announcement named the ongoing litigation as a reason for Prysmian dropping plans to build a cable manufacturing plant at Brayton Point, though Somerset Board of Selectmen Chairman Jameson Souza claimed that delays due to citizens' appeals, along with the threat of other potential delays in the future, absolutely impacted Prysmian's decision to withdraw. No known future discussions between Somerset and Brayton Point LLC are scheduled at this time. Planning a day trip? Fall River just made the state's must-visit list by Beth McDermott. Fall River is the focus of a new blog on the Massachusetts Office of Travel and Tourism's website, according to a community announcement. The blog, titled History, Mystery, and the Sea, Discover Fall River, highlights the city's historic attractions, public art, diverse cuisine, and cultural experiences. It emphasizes the ease of reaching Fall River via the new South Coast Rail service and suggests 5 must-see attractions: Battleship Cove, Maritime Museum, the Children's Museum of Greater Fall River, the Fall River Historical Society, and the Lizzie Borden House. 7 local eateries are also recommended: Letty's Bakery and Coffee Shop, Tony's Bakery, Sagres Restaurant, Caravella Family Restaurant, TA Restaurant, Almack's Diner, and Portugalia Marketplace. The blog's cover image features an aerial view of Battleship Cove. The blog is a result of Creative Arts Network Inc.'s advocacy, said CAN Executive Director Sandra Dennis. This favorable coverage from MOTT is one of the reasons of an initiative Creative Arts Network, as CAN, began last year to improve Fall River's presence on leading travel and tourism websites, and it's a very important one, said Dennis. Engaging and accurate website content is essential to building awareness of Fall River as a fun, worthwhile, and interesting destination. As we work to increase Fall River's popularity and increase revenue from tourism, people need to be able to easily find reasons to visit us. Dennis noted that MOTT's blogs receive up to 5,000 views a month, making this a significant promotional opportunity for Fall River, especially as the warm weather tourism season begins. Creative Arts Networks Inc. manages the Fall River Waterfront Cultural District, and one of its top priorities is raising awareness of the waterfront's attractions and businesses. Among other things, we publicized Battleship Cove's selection by USA Today as the country's best museum ship and asked MOTT to include Fall River in its series of digital travel guides, Dennis said. We're also actively promoting the Maritime Museum and its Titanic exhibit, which many people may not be aware of, and we have a district Facebook page. The Cultural District Management Team also works to beautify and make infrastructure improvements along the waterfront. MOTT concluded its blog with a description of Fall River as a city that rewards wandering and exploring, with convenient trolley stops, waterfront access, and attractions for all interests. The blog encourages planning a family-friendly excursion, cultural getaway, or foodie day trip to experience a slice of Massachusetts. The blog can be read at visitma.com/blog/2025 History, Mystery, and the Sea. This story was created, there's an editorial note, an interesting one, the first one I have read. This story was created by reporter Beth McDermott with the assistance of artificial intelligence, AI. Journalists were involved in every step of the information gathering, the review, editing, and publishing process. And we've completed all of the local news. We will now move on to the national news stage. And from the national news, drug prices vary wildly in Michigan hospitals. A report finds costs often dwarf those of the manufacturers, by Christian Jordan Shamus of the Detroit Free Press. Some Michigan hospitals are marking up prices for certain prescription drugs by thousands of dollars above what they pay manufacturers, according to a new report from the Michigan Health Purchasers Coalition, a nonprofit patient advocacy organization. The analysis compares the prices of 3 specialty drugs across 53 Michigan hospitals and suggests that even within a single health system, the charges billed to patients and their health insurance plans can vary by as much as $14,600 for the same medication at the same dosage, and were sometimes more than 800% higher than the manufacturer's average sales price. We honestly just think it's the hospitals taking advantage of an opportunity to make more money, said Brett Jackson, president of the coalition, which issued the report in late May. The effect is that consumers pay more out of pocket, Jackson said, at a time when medical debt in the United States has reached $220 billion, burdening about 1 in 12 U.S. adults, according to a Kaiser Family Foundation analysis. Laura Appel, executive vice president of the Michigan Health and Hospital Association, said hospital drug pricing is complex, and it's affected by multiple factors, including the price at which manufacturers sell the medicine, the volume of medicine hospitals order, and the costs of properly storing it and administering it. We're all paying attention to affordability and trying to make sure the patients get the care they need without being financially burdened. But we don't think that the place to start is by placing blame on hospitals, she said. The coalition's report used Turquoise Health, a health industry price transparency platform, to find the drug pricing data hospitals report to the U.S. Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. It compared those numbers with the volume-weighted average sales price, after rebates, discounts, etc., at which manufacturers sell drugs to all purchasers. The report detailed pricing for 3 specific specialty drugs. Neulasta, also known as Neprevia or pegfilgrastim, is used to lower the risk of infection in people with cancer who are being treated with chemotherapy and/or radiation. The average sales price manufacturers charge for a 6 milligram dose is $239.77, according to the report. Orencia, also known as abatacept, is used to treat such autoimmune conditions as rheumatoid arthritis, psoriatic arthritis, and juvenile idiopathic arthritis, and to help prevent acute graft versus host disease in people who have undergone stem cell transplant. The average sales price manufacturers charge for a 750 milligram infusion dose is $3,253.28, according to the MIPHC. And Humira, also known as adalimumab, is used to treat people with autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid and psoriatic arthritis, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, juvenile idiopathic arthritis, hidradenitis suppurativa, and uveitis. The average sales price manufacturers charge for a pack of 2 40 milligram injectable doses, totaling 80 milligrams, is $1,748.44, the coalition reported. The coalition found, for example, that at Henry Ford Health, which has 13 acute care hospitals and 2 specialty hospitals serving 6 Michigan counties, patients at the Rochester Hospital were charged $2,728 per 80 milligrams of Humira. But at 3 other Henry Ford hospitals in Madison Heights, Warren, and St. John in Detroit, the cost of Humira was $12,738. And at Henry Ford Jackson Hospital, patients were charged $15,808. That's a difference of $13,080 for the same amount of Humira between the most and least expensive Henry Ford Health locations, and there's an 804% upcharge between the average sales price and the cost of the medicine at the Jackson Hospital, according to the MIHPC. By comparison, Humira is available at a discounted price on GoodRx for $550. At Corewell Health, the state's largest health system with 21 hospitals across the Lower Peninsula, the cost ranges from $1,949 per 80 milligram lot for Humira at the Grand Rapids Butterworth Hospital to $7,338 per 80 milligram pack at its hospitals in Royal Oak and Troy. That's a difference of $5,389 between the most and least expensive Corewell locations for the same medication. And there's a nearly 320% upcharge between the average sales price and the cost billed to patients for the drug at the Troy and Royal Oak Corewell hospitals, according to the MICHP data. There is no difference between Humira that you get at Hospital A versus Humira you get at Hospital B, Jackson said. This shows that this excessive marking up of drug prices is really just the type of corporate greed that we're getting from these big, large, consolidated health systems. Henry Ford Health spokesperson Lauren Zakalik said that the Detroit-based health system couldn't corroborate the pricing included in the coalition's report. We welcome an informed, healthy conversation on this important topic in which everybody understands and has access to the same standardized set of data, she said in an emailed statement to the Detroit Free Press. The data this group is using to shape its findings cannot be corroborated, and because we can't validate their analysis, it's impossible to interpret or make any sense of their claims. Zahalik did not disclose what the health system charges for Humira, Neulasta, or Orencia at any of its hospitals. Instead, she said, "Well, sharing the individual list prices would create unnecessary and unfounded concern and confusion for our patients." Corewell Health also did not disclose a list of prices for the drugs at its hospital, saying in a statement, "The pricing estimates provided by MIHPC don't accurately reflect charges or negotiated reimbursement rates for the drugs they've highlighted. Pharmaceutical pricing is highly complex, takes into account factors such as where the drug is delivered, how administered, dosing, the manufacturer, contractual agreements, routine price changes, and individual patient circumstances." Jackson said because of transparency limits, they can't ascertain the total number of all the drugs that are sold in Michigan by hospitals and how much revenue is being taken in. What they can do, he said, is look at individual drugs, and we can see how much patients are actually paying for drugs right now. The prices, he noted, don't include fees to administer the medications. Neulasta, for example, is given by infusion. Orencia also can be delivered by infusion or via injection. Humira is an injectable drug. There's a separate charge for the nurse or doctor or clinician to infuse the drug into the patient. They're paid for that separately. This is just the cost of the drug itself, the same drug at various hospitals around the state. And with that disturbing story, glad I don't live in Michigan and don't need any of those drugs, we've come to the end of our reading of the Fall River Herald News for today, Monday, June 2nd of 2025. And this is your reader, Eric, saying be well, be safe, look after each other. Remember our veterans, especially these days that aren't Memorial and Veterans Days. Bye for now.